Welcome to The Burning of the Midnight Lamp, where we are dissecting music history album by album and track by track. We have come to a new album, the fifth album we're doing in this podcast/YouTube series, and but we are still keeping ourselves in familiar territory with David Bowie and have come to his 23rd album, Heathen, from 2002. So we have decided to start with this first track, of course, which is Sunday. And I suggest we just start listening to it immediately.
Nothing remains. We could run when the rain slows. Look for the cause or signs of life where the heat goes. Look for the drifters. We should crawl under the bracken. Look for the shafts of light on the road where the heat goes. Everything has changed, for in truth it's the beginning of nothing, and nothing has changed. Everything has changed. For in truth, it's the beginning of an end, and nothing has changed. Everything has changed. In your field of what we have become, take to the fire. Now we must burn all that you are. Rise together through these clouds as onward. This is the trip, and this the business we take. This is our number. Oh, my trials, Lord, will be remembered. Everything has changed.
Sunday, first track on Heathen. Slow start.
Yeah, it's not a very obvious choice of album opener, I would say. But then again, it's very atmospheric. And when you put it in context with the whole album, I think it works fine.
It is a very beautiful track.
It sets the stage for the content of the album that signifies that this will be a more somber, serious album with some heavy themes. And of course, the other bookend, The Heathen, The Race, is another one of these large, heavy tracks. Not heavy in sound, but so with the beginning of the end here, where you can swing in lighter and darker direction than during the album, but this will still, give the gravitas of the album.
It also shows some remarkable constraint with the actual, like the analog drums coming in at the very end of the track. Before that, there's only some electronic percussion here and there.
And it's a great moment, maybe the favorite moment on the track for me. Very powerful, very simple still. It's just, they just add bass and drums.
No, it's simple, but it really works.
It's very, very effectful, Great guitar playing here, great effects, maybe one could say. Played by David Thorne, was maybe brought in for this very reason. To play atmospheric guitar like this.
It is very much what builds this track, what is going on in the background, and you can hear how it's been chopped up and looped.
And Thorne did bring it home with him to do exactly that. So he was both playing in the studio and playing around with it on his computer afterwards, one could say.
I'm guessing David would put the vocals after he received that back. Like the final vocal track?
Can imagine that. At least didn't record it, the vocals while they were playing. So he did both write the lyrics and record the vocals afterwards.
Yeah,
He often did that. Put the vocals on in the end. But it's not just the guitar that is chopped up and rearranged. The beats until the analog drums come. There's a lot of glitchy electronic percussion, or don't know what you can call it. And this was 2002, and that type of glitchy beats were very much in vogue.
Very modern.
More
for the time.
Artful, adventurous artists. Radiohead's Kid A was probably the most prominent release, but there's a large group of more unknown to the mainstream artists that did this, but some mainstream artists they used this aesthetic. Depeche Mode, for instance, on the Dream On single on the Exciter
Beastie Boys
album, yes, and
a lot of hip hop.
A lot
artists.
of hip hop, and from the record company Warped. My associations go to a Mexican electronic composer called Murkoff, and he used a lot of classical samples from classical music, and he combined them with this glitchy electronica to make some wonderful tracks. And I think this combination that Bowie uses here of this angelic choir as a bed for his vocals, and when you got this classical choir sounding combined with the electronica,
it does give the song
gives
maybe
the milk of
also maybe a little bit maybe not so much that choir sound, which I find maybe a little bit cheap sounding.
A little bit,
Assume it's played on Bowie's Trinity keyboard
Mm.
from Korg that he used at the time.
He used it a lot even for the Black Star demos, I think. So
Mm.
he was fond of it.
But there is a part, choir part in there when he sings "In Your Fair, Seek Only Peace." That part sounds almost a little bit Gregorian in a way.
It does, and that is only Bowie himself doubling himself. There's no one else, as we know
Well,
of.
there is a so-called bussy synth sound in the instrumental passage, according to Visconti. It is actually himself singing, throat singing technique.
Yeah.
So these overtones on the track. So
there's a choir of
in a way,
Viscontis.
he's contributing to the singing here, but not in the way you would think.
No.
And his singing, just to have that said, his singing in this track is amazing.
Yeah.
This is Bowie with the baritone. This is the Scott Walker Bowie in full-on mode, almost operatic in the opening, and then in the end, when the song gets all-powerful, you get the microphone production trick from Heroes, the track, where they just have gated microphones, and they just take all the reverb, natural reverb of the room as Bowie sings more louder in the end.
He did record this in their studios, the Catskill Mountains, north of, or at least outside of New York City. Very serene mountain landscape, and that directly inspired the lyrics for this song. Bowie got up early in the mornings. At 6 o'clock, he started writing lyrics, and he had this vision, or not vision, he was looking out the window basically, and he saw deers outside the window. He saw a car driving slowly in the distance. I think we can actually see that in the lyrics. He sings something that looks for the shafts of light on the road. I'm guessing that's the car he was seeing in the distance. And he said he had a very powerful moment. He had tears running down his face as he was writing these lyrics, which according to himself came out almost as he was playing through the song. And he also said that it was a text, both this one and he said the same about Heathen, the last track on the album, that it was lyrics that he didn't want to write. They just poured out of him, and he put them down on paper, and he couldn't control himself in a way.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, you could easily imagine this being written as the sun was coming up in the morning. That's almost how the track itself comes to life.
That's almost some sort of automatic writing you're describing here, Frode, and
stream of
consciousness. But especially the automatic writing is something that the surrealists in the 1920s, 30s, they used that as a method of bypassing the consciousness and the conscious part of the brain that senses your thoughts. And they also had two different approaches beside automatic writing, and one was to use the dreams, imagery from dreams. That was the dream, the King's Road, they said. And the last one was coincidence, using cut-ups. And all these three are, parts of Bowie's modus operandi, you could say. He's used cut-up methods for writing lyrics since...
He even created his own little software or a computer technique to do that digitally later.
Yes, he did. And if you see the Cracked Actor, the BBC documentary, he does it old school with the scissor and just like Tristan Tzara would say, that how you make a Dadaist poem. And but Bowie's inspiration was, I think, Burroughs and Brian Geisen, that it also used their own way of cut-up. So cut-ups is something he's used for all his career, and probably used here somewhere as well. How to use dreams. There is, of course, in the booklets of the album, one of the 3 books that are pictured there is the interpretation of dreams by Sigmund Freud. And lastly, automatic writing in surrealists. Jonathan Barnbrook, who designed the cover, said that they were, he at least were inspired by Buñuel and Salvador Dali's surrealist picture, Un Chien Andalou.
But then you also have other producers like Rick Rubin, who says that these ideas is just floating around in the universe, and you just need to go out and grab them. But if you don't grab them there and then, they're gonna slip away, and you will grab something else. I don't know how he felt that that this just came to him as he was writing this song. But since you describe it that he didn't want to write it, but it just almost was writing itself.
He said the place just dragged the lyrics out of him. And it starts with the lines, "Nothing remains, we could run where the rain slows, look for the cars or signs of life." And the timing of the release of the album and these, despite being written in a serene, beautiful mountain landscape, was interpreted as bleak, post-apocalyptic imagery. And because of that, I believe many reviews to be about the September 11th attacks. But the song had been written weeks before the attacks. They were recorded the album when the attacks happened. And but Bowie has himself acknowledged that there was an eerie way the lyrics seemed to predict the attacks. And he said it was quite spine-tingling to realize how close those lyrics came. There are some key words in there that really just freaked me out.
That is true, but then again, you can put a dart arrow and put the total lyrics of Mr. David Bowie on a wall and just throw the arrow, and you're probably going to land close to something apocalyptic.
Yeah, but you can imagine Bowie having that experience writing those lyrics, and obviously him living in Manhattan, a stone throw away from where this happened. It must have had a profound impact on him, and I don't think he of course thought that he was foreseeing the future here, but I can imagine that would have made an impact on him at least. Another thing he also said, the inspiration for this track and also the album's closer, Heathen, the Race, the title track, in addition to I Will Be a Slave and 5:15, The Angels Have Gone, they were all inspired from Richard Strauss and his 4 last songs, which was made while he was 84 years old in the 1940s. Bowie said about these songs that they're the most terribly romantic, sad, poignant pieces that I think have ever been written. I kind of used them as a template.
Yeah, you can see that he's making his autumn songs, late life songs, and if this would have been the last David Bowie album, Heathen the Race could have been a fitting ending for, and just as Bring Me the Disco King could have been, and Heat and so on. But
I also find it interesting that those 4 songs they have sort of a similar atmosphere. Quite slow, melancholic. Maybe I Would Be Your Slave is slightly more tempo in than the others, but
Yeah, they're more the heavy tracks, and then you
Mm.
get more light ones around. But about Heath and the Race, I think it was Nicholas Pegg, probably. It's often Nicholas Pegg, if you wonder where you get the information. Wrote that Heath and the Race were what Bowie considered as the last song of the Lazarus musical.
Mhm.
Would have been a sad ending. So I think taking it away, we gave it a bit more upbeat ending, slightly at least. But it shows that this is a death song, or it's a last curtain call song, and maybe the three others are that as well. But he's putting it in the opening spot, and of course Sunday is calling it Sunday. Sunday is both the end of the week and the beginning of the week. You know, in the international week standard used in most parts of the world, but not United States and not Japan and Middle East. They have Sunday as the first day of the week in the calendars, but in the international standard, Sunday is the last day. So this having an opening with a Sunday, you know, it's for some people that Sunday signifies the opening. For some people it signifies the end of the weekend.
I also imagine that it could have been a Sunday morning he was writing this lyrics.
Yeah, that's quite possible, because you also have a track called 5:15 on this album, The Angels Have Gone.
Mm.
So it's almost like, you know, this is a diary entry. Sunday, we did so-and-so. 5:15, we did so-and-so.
Maybe.
More technical titles.
Is it also a point that Sunday and Eden is the only songs where the title of the song is not repeated in the lyrics?
Is it? Well, it's possible.
Yeah, I think you're right. You could, of course, argue, and I took a trip on the Gemini spaceship. He actually sings, I took a trip on the Gemini spacecraft.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Even
details.
even the legendary Stardust Cowboy sings it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, no. But you're right. He doesn't mention that in either of those songs.
Mm.
But as Bowie openers go, if we look at the other, you know, his history of opening tracks, it's not typical opening track for Bowie. It sticks out, and it reminds me. I said Scott Walker. It reminds me of A Farmer in the City on Tilt, being of course an album that Bowie was very fond of, and naming it one of his two albums of 1995, together with Maxine Quay by Tricky.
You do have a very slow opener on Outside as well, though.
Oh yeah, but it's not just a minute of snippet vocals and dates, and
But it's not common.
it's not something he used often. He's more let's start out with a bang. You could say 5 years is a slow opener as well.
Yeah. He did some remixes of the track. Moby did a remix of it. Moby actually was Bowie's neighbor at the time. Not sure if they lived on the same floor or not, but they lived in the same building, I think.
You can see them, picture them picking up the paper and
Going in the elevator.
yeah. Can you do a remix?
Yeah.
If you take out the trash.
Well, Bowie actually invited Moby in to listen to a couple of tracks from the album and demos.
Yeah.
We'll get to that later, because
Okay.
I don't think it was this one.
Okay. And Tony Visconti also made a Tony Visconti mix, special Tony Visconti mix of this track. Both of these has been released on different The Tony Visconti mix, I think it is, was released on the B-side of I've Been Waiting For You single, which was only released in Canada, where Neil Young's from. Maybe that's why it was released there.
Yeah, most likely.
But all these B-sides, they're hard to get today because that's one of the parts of the Bowie library that is not available on streaming services as of 2024. Because most of his back catalog, even more obscure things, have been remastered and re-released, but not these tracks.
It's a track that was performed quite a lot on the tours, but Heathen and Reality tours. It was played in total 116 times by Bowie. The first time was at Roseland Ballroom in New York, June 11th, 2002, when he played the whole album, whole Heathen album, and the Low album. And it was last played in 30th of May 2004 in Atlantic City. And he also played it at for BBC Radio in London in 2002, I think.
And the live version is brilliant because it has this. The album version fades when it gets powerful, and obviously you cannot do that on stage. So you have to build on the song to make a good ending. And they did.
Yeah, they did. And it can be heard on a Reality Tour live album and DVD.
And it's also quite surprising how true it is to the original track, even though, as we mentioned, a lot of this has been just pieced together and looped. And also when you imagine that David Thorne is not playing in the live version of the band, but they seem to have taken some of his things because you can really recognize the track as it is.
Oh, it's a great track. Great opener. Any final words on the track before we go to the next one?
Yeah, I guess we should.
Yeah.
Before we sting ourselves on a cactus.
Cactus, yeah. Thank you to everyone who was watching us. We will be back soon with Cactus by Pixies that Bowie recorded. We also have a podcast series where we are discussing the full album, everything around the album, all the tracks on the album, and so on. And we have a Patreon where you can see the whole album from start to finish, an early access of all the songs that we're going to release also on YouTube, but also more, because we have the full podcast film there as well. So again, thank you to everyone. My name is Foda.
I am Tron.
My name is Chris.
And have a nice day, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you in a bit.